I stopped editing my drone footage like everybody else. It was making my work worse. And once I changed this one thing, my footage started looking more expensive right away. For a very long time, I edited my drone shots like most people do. Very strong LUTs, heavy contrast, teal skies, orange grounds. You know the look. I used to think this is cinematic. But the truth is, I cringe every single time I see my old shots. So they didn't age very well, that's for sure. And I think the problem stems out from our egos, trying to mimic a style that we've seen in a movie, crushing our blacks or making our colors way too unrealistic. I'm very guilty of that. I used to color grade in that way, and I really dislike this style nowadays. I think the real cinematic footage is not the one that screams and really stands out. It's actually unnoticed in a way. So you shouldn't notice the colors. They should just be there and make a good impression to you without having to think about them. So one day I was browsing through my channel, watching some of my old videos. I do that on a regular basis because it brings me back to where I started and it gives me very valuable insights sometimes. So I was browsing through my videos and I was just cringing so hard because of the fact I just couldn't stand the look of my videos. Not only the editing was bad, of course that needs time to evolve and kind of get better, but the colors are something that I don't really have an explanation why I was overdoing them that much. And especially with Instagram, with all of their filters, with all the things that we are seeing being pushed around as cinematic, we kind of lost touch with the reality, in my opinion. So I definitely changed my mind on how I perceive colors nowadays, and I believe the real cinematic footage is the one that looks the most natural to the human eye. It's still vibrant and punchy, but doesn't scream fake. It doesn't scream overused, slapped filter on it that just makes no sense. We're not making movies here on YouTube, although some people are, but the majority of people are just flying their drones, and we're not really creating those movies that we have in our heads. So it doesn't make sense to have those colors in our shots. For me, what looks professional is natural and very consistent colors that you can transfer through the years and still have a never aging type of footage that you're not embarrassed from. I think extreme grading comes from trying to mask up some mistakes during the shooting process. So the best footage doesn't really need that much grading. Of course, some footage can be heavily improved by doing some masks, by adding some colors where there weren't any. But for the most part, in 90% of the time, the most good-looking footage does not need that much work. And especially when we have this huge rift between creators and viewers, where creators think they should impress their viewers with their colors, with the way their footage has been edited, and most viewers don't care about that. I've noticed that many people are not impressed by these things. They're looking at different things when they look at your footage, so they don't get impressed by the colors, they don't get impressed that much by your editing. It's so much better to focus on the story, on the way the footage flows, instead of how the footage has been graded. That's my personal opinion. For me, cinematic footage does not mean moody, dark, crushed type of footage. It's consistent footage with rich contrast, but preserved details in the shadows and the highlights, color harmony that just works great together, so you get the balance right between all the colors, and keeping everything consistent. The discipline to keep everything consistent is, I would say, the biggest challenge. So once I stopped editing like everybody else, and once I focused on my own desire to keep everything consistent and natural looking, this is where my footage really became a lot better. So take it from me, if you want your footage to stand out, don't add too much to it. Take as much out of it as possible. So you remove what doesn't belong and focus on what's important. This is when your work really starts to speak for itself. If you're curious about how I edit my videos and what's my creative workflow when it comes to color grading my footage, there will be a link below for my full DaVinci Resolve Power Grade and my one-click LUTs for anyone curious. I hope this video will help you out and will make a difference for your next edit.